Today I'm going to give you 10 reasons why you, yes, you, should write a book. Everybody needs to write a book, and I mean everybody. Haven't you ever thought about it? Hi, I'm Terry, coming to you from Beyond 70. There's lots of reasons people write books. There's probably as many reasons people write books as there are people who write them. But today we're going to just jump into 10 top reasons in my mind why you should write a book. For one, and this is the most important reason, we'll just go right for the jugular. The most important reason first. You should write a book because you have a story to tell. That's the only real reason that somebody should write a book. You have a story to tell. My first novel, Strings of Faith, I wrote it as a novel, but the idea came to me because of a family story. It was kind of a painful story, not for me personally, but in the family. And I wanted to tell the story, but I didn't want to be in your face about it, kind of sensitive. So I wrote that story. I guess you would call it a fictionalized true story. So I created the story around things that I love, bluegrass music for one, and just things that I enjoy, RV camping, and the whole book just surrounds that. But it was because I had a story to tell. That was my first novel. Secondly, to advertise or reinforce your business. If you have a business, there's no better way to advertise it than to have your face or your name on the cover of a book. People throw business cards away. You hand them a business card and it goes in the trash can. They're not going to throw a book in the trash can. So a book is a great thing to have if you have a business. Third, just share wisdom with your family. If you're getting up in years like me, there are just certain things that you don't want to lose. Maybe it's family history or just things that you want to teach your kids, your grandkids, or great-grandkids. That's a good reason to write a book. You don't even really need to publish it. I mean, you should have it printed, but maybe you're just printing enough to hand around the family. Number 4, to gain back of the room sales. And this goes back to business. If you are one who goes on speaking tours, or you do public speaking as part of your business, it's great to have books on the back table that you can sign or whatever and hand out after your speech. So back to the room sales. Number 5, to become a recognized expert in your field. Now, when you write a nonfiction book, you want to write about something that you're familiar with. Doing that, having a book about that subject automatically makes you an expert. Now, whether you feel like you're an expert or you don't have a degree in the subject, it's irrelevant. If you've written a book on the subject, you're an expert. Number 6, to have fun creating fiction. I didn't think I would ever be a novelist. Like I said, I wrote Strings of Faith just to tell a story in a way that wasn't quite so painful. But I also wrote this series. I call it the Brandon McStocker Crime Series. But it was a trilogy. It was 3 books. And it just followed this family through time, or this business actually through time. And, just a lot of things went on. Criminals and, chase scenes and all that stuff. And it was fun. Even if you don't think that way, and I didn't think I did, making up stories there was some research involved, but because you want to be authentic in the story you tell, but the characters were yours. And it got to the point that I would wake up, my characters would wake me up early in the morning, because they had something to tell me. And I know that sounds creepy, but they told their own story. I don't outline. There are authors who outline. Stephen King calls them outliners and pantsers. And it's those who take time to outline their book and get everything laid out, and they know what their chapters are going to be. But then there are those who are pantsers. They just write. They just write the story as it comes to them. And that's what I did. And that's why I got so involved with the characters. They pretty much started waking me up in the morning. They had a story to tell. And I would get a good chapter or two out of that. So it's a lot of fun. It's just fun. That's all there is to it. Number 7 is to document your life, maybe, and your family history. My wife wrote a book about the Stafford family many years ago. We were heavy into genealogy and visited libraries and county clerks' offices and cemeteries and a bunch. But that was all around Kentucky and Tennessee, where my family are from. But she wrote a family history book, basically, on the Stafford family, and, got back as far as she could. That's a lot of fun, but a lot of people got that book and learned a lot of things about the family. So that was pretty cool. So you can write a book about your family history. Number 8, to share your talents or gifts. And there I'm talking about like a photo book, a recipe book, just putting family recipes together under a cover, maybe your own recipes, if you're a gifted cook. That could be a lot of fun. Number 9, to tell someone else's story. Now, this is basically called ghostwriting, where you don't have anything yourself you want to write, but somebody else wants to tell their story, and they either don't have the time or the inclination to write it. So they're looking for somebody to do it. Now, it's that's kind of a skill, a special skill, because there's a lot of interviews involved, agreements involved. That's why when you take your book to get it edited, and eventually we'll get into all the details about writing a book, you get it edited, it's not necessarily cheap. But if you hire a ghostwriter, you're going to pay the big bucks. Ghostwriters are definitely not cheap because they're spending a lot of time digging that story out of somebody and then putting it in words that's in the voice of the person who's telling the story. That's hard to do. So that's not for the faint of heart, but it's something, if you want to write somebody else's story. But number 10 is simply to fill those boring days while keeping your brain busy. There's that. It's a pretty basic reason, but it keeps you busy. And you can publish the book or just write it and print it and staple it and call it done. You take it as far as you want to take it. One nonfiction book that I wrote that could help, and we'll get into it more. I think we'll get into it and discuss it specifically, but it's called Project Management. There it is. Project Management for Writers. It's on Amazon. And like I say, and there is a link to it below in the description. But it doesn't teach you the craft of writing, but it's how to line out the project. I mean, I was a writer and I was a project manager by day. And so I kind of put the two together. How can you organize a writing project? And I just thought there was something there. So it talks about setting milestones and scheduling different phases of the writing project, and it goes into all that. Like I say, we can discuss that later on. And if you want to continue the conversation about writing a book, and I sure hope you do, we'll carry it on. Ask your questions. There are links to actually all my books below in the description, but ask your questions if you have something specific. And we can keep talking about writing. Like I say, I'm going to have an episode specifically dedicated to this project management for writers, so you can learn what that's all about. Like I said, leave your comments, leave your questions. I'll be glad to engage with you. Don't forget, you're never too old to learn. We'll see you.